All right. Well, welcome on board. It's time for Budeshi. I'm trying to make a connection with my guest for this morning. I don't know why it's okay. Just forgive us. We're trying to make that connection as soon as we're able to. We will just get on board with Budeshi at this point in time. We have Ifeoma Onyebuchi, Program Director of PPDC, and Nnenna. Yes, those are the two ladies we'll be talking to this morning. Okay, I think I have Nnenna on the line. And I'll be trying to also connect with Ifeoma Onyebuchi. So please just be on the standby for that.
Couple months have passed, never thought that this would last. Oh, everybody
I think I do have Nnenna on the line. Good morning to you, Nnenna. How you doing? All right, I'm fine. While we have Nnenna on the line, we'll also be trying to make that connect with Oma this morning. So please do stay with us. But this morning, PPDC has been partnering with local actors in Abia and Anambra State towards effective community engagement to reduce inefficiencies in contract implementation in various sectors and to help empower citizens in rural communities with information and to be actively involved in governance. Now, it's on this note that our discussion this week will be centered on reaching rural communities with data and focus on the launch of Abia and Anambra Open Contracting Portal. Now we have Nnenna Eze, who's the communication officer of PPDC. Thank you so much once again, Nnenna, for joining us. We'll be joined by Ifeoma Onyebuchi in a very short while. But as we try to make that contact with Ifeoma, can you throw more light on why PPDC carries out community engagement in local communities?
Okay, thank you for having me. For those of you who don't know what PPDC is, we are a civil society organization that focuses on
Okay, we're having issues here. Okay, go ahead now. We have reconnected with you. Go on.
Okay, yes. All right, we do this by increasing citizens' participation. So the reason why we carry out community engagement and community outreach is solely because of the fact that over 70% of our budget goes into development and constructions of projects in the community. And for us, it's important that if all these monies are being utilized or are supposed to be utilized for the construction of projects that better serve the people in these communities. It's important for us that this project are actually constructed, and it's important for us that we engage these people living in these communities, the beneficiaries of this project, schools, PHCs, borehole, roads, and so on. It's important for us to engage them and make sure that they have important data that they can use to monitor and track the project. Because what we've seen in the field over the past years is that these projects, even after money has been awarded and contracted, contractors go to sites and to be constructing a project, we find out that these projects are not even on site. And another thing we found out is that community members are not even aware of the contract sum, the contract amount. They don't know any details about the contract. And seeing that, the government is trying or is actively, pushing for open contracting and digitalizing almost all the aspects of governance. And we have noticed that there is a bridge there's a bridge because people living in rural communities may not have adequate access and even understanding on how to read this complex data. So this is where we found the need to bridge this gap, simplify the data for them to ensure that they help they help, improve service delivery. They help take matters into their hands, because when you have information, you know what they say, information is power, knowledge is power.
Information is power.
When you have this information, you're able to actually know, okay, this school in my town is supposed to be constructed. Why is it not here? Okay, let me go on the portal. Let me go and find out who is the contractor. Let me go and find out how much was awarded for this contract. And so this is why we do engage communities, because we are trying to not just make Nigeria great, but improve service delivery and help fight corruption at that level.
It's very, very important, like you said. Okay, I think we're joined by Ifeoma Onyebuchi. Ifeoma, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. How are you this morning? Oh, wow. I think the connection is very bad. I may have to redial the number. Just stay by, and I will call you right back, Ifeoma. I'm afraid the connection has been really very bad, but we're trying to get in touch with Ifeoma again. Now, Nnenna has taken us through the reasons why, PPDC carries out community engagement in those communities like we mentioned. Hopefully, we get Ifeoma on board. Yes, which I think she is right here. Ifeoma, are you there? Okay, yes, the connection is much clearer now. Now, Ifeoma has held us, has told us or thrown more light as to why PPDC carries out community engagement in communities, local communities, for information and fighting corruption at that level. Now, I'd like to ask you what strategies PPDC have in place to sustain, citizens' participation in governance, in view of you engaging the communities and all of that.
Awesome. So I think the first thing for us is, why are we doing, and why should we even care about how government is in their community? They're really in need for that to happen. And in hinging on that, I think one of the things we try to do all the time when we talk to communities is to make them central in government, help them to actually capture their own, because they understand the concept better than us. While if this works, if they have good news, they are going to be the ones flying. They are not the ones there. But also the line of fact, he pays tax, and it's also the core responsibility of government to make sure that it's the welfare of that prioritize and cater for, right? Mm-hmm. And so how communicate messages to them use some sort of create what we call create messages. Because we know, look at the geography in Nigeria, more than 200 languages, have people speaking different languages. So how do we make this message about governance in a way that makes them, in a way that when they hear the messages, data can be very. So, and we are dealing with lots of capital data, budget data, and all that. So we try as much as we can to break down the information using local language. We also came back from in Abia State, where we said Abama, and we had to imagine the work of translating data into their local dialect and using infographics and comics to kind of break down that when they see the lumps of money, they know that, this time done is actually meant to produce this borehole, is meant to rebuild the schools and the hospitals. And we also try to create community dialogue, so just become ourselves, but also go to the community and organize town halls around already existing social structures. So this, for example, is that we have what we call meetings, where women normally usually gather during the August. So there's already youth structures, women to traditional rulers that already exist. And look at people, they're very powerful in their own clients, because if they want to champion a cause, all they need to do is to gather and then take up. What we try to is not duplicate, effort, but also leverage all the structures already existing in the community to talk about it. So when we have the engagement, we make sure that these good people are part of this. It's more like keeping ourselves into community to communicate those. I think is one of the strategies that we use that have worked so far. We have case studies where this approach is and you see people, understanding that in a bush practice. Another thing would not just to tell you this is what to do, but also kind of use citizen-led approach. What this means is we come to you with causes and you tell us how best you think we can champion. An example was the last engagement we also held where, after addressing people and speaking to them about the food that are in the portal that the state government has and those two contracts for. And if you look at the portal, it's really society to actually use it because they have the skills to kind of put data and this. But seeing people who are not really sophisticated or being able to ask questions about government, asking how do we get portals, how we download data, even if we ourselves cannot do it, how can we have our children use the data? And they are the ones that tell us, oh, this is what we can do. Can break this information, give it to our traditional, disseminate it using standards, using the searching bulletins and all that.
Okay.
So the approach that wants to leading us on, tell us how to do it. And I think that really works in so many ways.
Yeah.
And I think we try to do it to work with clusters of those communities. So every community has used, they have everybody who can actually understand it. So what I try to do to work with this young
Okay.
who will bring their capacity on how to fund monitoring and support them with seed funding to engage data more and report back to the country.
Okay.
So these are some of the strategies that
Yes.
are really
Yeah, you've said so many very extensive things, very important. But even though, the network is just cutting out your voice in bits and pieces, I don't know what to do about this network. It seems very bad. I don't know if we could join you on WhatsApp and probably see if that could be much better. As we just take up on Nnenna and try to reconnect and pitch you up and see if that would sound a lot better. Ifeoma. If not, then we'll just still have to reconnect with you again on this line. So just be on standby. I'll try to reconnect with you on a different platform to see how the output is going to be. All right, guys, don't lose don't lose focus. It's still Budeshi this morning. And today our discussion is focused on reaching rural communities with data, focus on the launch of Abia and Anambra open contracting portal. We have Nnenna Eze and Ifeoma Onyebuchi, Communication Officer and Program Director at the PPDC, talking to us on, the ways that they're going about achieving this. Now, back to you, Nnenna. Let's ask you, if deployed, what do you see to be the changes and impacts that can be achieved if citizens actively participate in governance?
Okay, so our goal is, of course, to have the data easily accessible and available for everybody. And when this happens, the people in these communities will have easy access to data. They will have easy access to actually track and monitor projects in their community. Like my colleague Oma mentioned, when we went to Abia in Abia State, and we gave them the data so there was supposed to be a construction of a borehole that they had no idea about. And when we gave them the data, the contractor's name, the amount that it was supposed to be contracted for, they were all surprised and they couldn't believe it. And there and then in that community town hall, they made serious commitments to, follow up with their representative, go on radio, and start to raise awareness on the fact that you have paid for this necessity. So where is it? And the fact that the essential in making their lives easier in that community, made it even more relatable and made them more passionate about finding out what actually happened to the borehole, because we even went around the community and we didn't find the borehole. So our goal or the impact we want to see is more and better service delivery, because when we are able to track, monitor, and give feedback to the appropriate quarters and people, we see that development starts to happen. So what we've seen in other states in Anambra is when we deploy the portal and people go and monitor, people go and see, okay, this is what is in the field, and this is not what's the word? It doesn't tally with what we have on the portal. We see that they go back, the government, the contractors actually go back. Yes, they actually go back and finish, complete, or renovate, or do what they're actually supposed to do. So what this is going to do for us as Nigeria is improve improve Nigeria as a whole, making amenities.
Hello. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, just go on. Hello. Okay, we do apologize. I think there's glitch there. Hello, Nnenna, can you hear me?
Yes, okay. I can hear you now.
Please go on.
So what this is going to do is going to improve service. It's going to improve service. It's going to improve the quality of projects being constructed. It's going to keep contractors, representatives on their toes, and like I always say, it's going to eliminate corruption.
Indeed, it's very important. I mean, and I think like Ifeoma was mentioning earlier on, or Ifeoma, was mentioning earlier on, citizens' participation is really very important in all of this. Now, Ifeoma, I'm sure you're with us now, right?
I am.
Okay,
thank you. I'm so sorry about
the quality is much better. Thank God for that. Now, you guys in the process of talking, and like our focus is, community engagement in Abia and Anambra. Can you tell us more about these engagements, most especially as it relates to these communities that we're talking about, Abia, Anambra? Tell us more about these engagements.
So I think that, like I initially mentioned, it's kind of making citizens central in governance. If in a democratic governance like Nigeria, I mean, we just celebrated on Monday, on the 28th day of this month of September, the universal access to information. And I am so happy that different countries in Africa are beginning to, change the tide of how they actually perceive transparency. And coming down to Nigeria, which is also the biggest economy in Africa, how do we make sure that we sustain our democratic gains? How do we make sure that the people who are the greatest resources of every government or every economy is able to understand how government utilize their funds? And the best way to do this is to promote their access to information, including them in the decisions, in policy makings. And the only way you can actually include people in policy decisions, program development, and management is giving them access to information. And the best way is to leverage technology. So if we are seeing lots of government at the federal level and at the state level committing to open contracting, I think it's a strong message. But whilst we are also doing this leveraging technology, let us not elude the fact that we are still, battling with a lot of tech infrastructure. And if you look at the way our country is structured, you will see that we don't really have universal access to technology the way we should have, right? So if you're having tech-driven initiatives at this local level, it's also very good that we put up frameworks in place, platforms in place that will allow people's access to not be restricted, because what you will have is you are having the highest level of transparency, but people are not engaging. So what we try to do is, whilst we are supporting state government to implement open contracting, right, we also, tailoring down our support to different categories of this population, people who have access to information, people who can use the digital tools, and people who cannot use the digital tools. And that's at the lowest level of the society. We talk about people who are in rural areas, who are, in digitally excluded communities. And that is where you see the decay of corruption the most. And they are the ones that bear the brunt of corruption, because that is where you have almost a huge chunk of the project being executed. And meanwhile, nobody actually knows about them. So it's really a big issue for us. We have lots of civil society who can attest to this. The facts and figures are coming out on daily basis on how much that are being expended that doesn't really tally with the service delivered. So there's usually that gaps. And what we try to do is to make sure that these people understand, they know the budgetary appropriations, they know the contracts that are coming to their communities, they know the contractors, just like Nnenna mentioned. Just a use case, a case study that happened recently last month when we visited Abia State. The borehole was built in the community, right in the community. And the contractor was perceived as someone, and I'm quoting one of the community members, someone that drills, borehole for government. So they are seeing it as a favor. And these are the recurring, decimal we are seeing every time, where contractors are being perceived as being favor to the community without the community knowing that this is their, their right, and they are entitled to, query how that project is being delivered. Yeah. And I was really amazed when we were hearing all those things, and nobody knew. And the project is just the right in their eye, is in the contracting, is in the portal, on the portal that was delivered. The monies are there, the contractor's name are there. They know the contractor, they know him, they know his name, and they know him physically. But they cannot connect that this is actually a project for our community. And so having empowered the people.
Oh, yeah, go on.
Yeah, so having empowered the community, engage them, we learned, they committed to actually take this up. And I'm so happy that we saw that commitment, because we had the traditional rulers, like I said, is usually our approach to make sure that, all those people who influence their communities at that level are part of the conversation. Okay. You have the religious leaders, you have the, youth leaders, you have the women leaders, you have the traditional rulers. They were all part of the community. In fact, it was the traditional ruler that said, oh, leave this to me. We know what to do, even though we know that there are still attendant, challenges, which if we have the opportunity, I actually want to touch on them. So seeing people take up this because they've been empowered is something that is really beautiful and something that we look to replicating in other societies. Indeed. And I believe that, of course, if we're able to do this, and that we could begin to start seeing changes at that level.
Yes, indeed. I think that's a very noble and very wonderful effort that the PPDC is putting. Now, very quickly to you, Nnenna, what are some of those impediments that you think that is there, especially when it comes to citizens' participation in governance, especially in demanding for better service delivery project like the ones that we were talking about? What are some of those barriers?
Yeah. I think what we've noticed in our years of constant engagement with these communities is that they don't have access to information. So, which is why we deem it very important for us to localize and localize open contracting in their states. So engaging with their government, their state governments, to make open contracting access to information easily available for them. So now that we have successfully adopted and will soon be deploying some of these portals in these states, we feel like now people in rural communities will have access to information. Another barrier or challenge that we face in citizens' participation in rural community is, interpreting the data, because of course some of them are not
well educated.
Yes, well educated. They don't know how to interpret data, and also, of course, technology barriers. They don't have access to the internet and access to the portal. So it's up to us to find ways, and we have done so. We found ways to simplify this data for them. Having community-based monitors who we work with in all these communities. So what we do is we simplify the data, translate to their languages, and send to them. We also publish some of these data on their church bulletins. Of course, we go on radio just to help them understand, and even opening up our communication channels to them. So if they have questions, if they need any clarification, they can make use of our toll-free number. They can call anytime and, ask us questions on any contract in their community. Yes, so that's what we've done.
That's a great initiative, honestly, I must say. So very quickly before, as we begin to round off this discussion, how does empowering rural communities with information translate to improve service delivery for them? Ifeoma, this is for you.
So I think that first off, if we empower you, anyone that is empowered, there's always the problem, and then there's always a goal. If you are empowered, if there's need for you to be empowered and you're empowered, it should lead to something. And for us, that is the aim of all the work we are doing. So if we empower you to use data, you will use the data, right? And when you use the data, you ask the right questions. And the question should be channeled to government and to close what we always call the feedback loop. And we're beginning to see in so many states where just because communities, rural communities, this category of people we think do not really care about government, right? Because they were able to, be empowered, what we call in Nigerian language, gingered, they started taking action. And it's really amazing because they even surpassed what we as civil societies can do. I always say this, that, there is no better person that can actually take real action than the person that something hurts. So if it affects me, I will even go extra mile to do this. And that's the scenario we are seeing. In Kaduna State, for example, we saw where, the civil societies we work with, we're able to go to the communities and then just show them the budgetary allocation on the portal, the Kaduna State portal that we built, and then say, this is your community, these are the roads you were supposed to receive. And then we're like, oh, we actually know this road, but it's not even looking at the quality of the road. We don't really think that is in tandem with, the amount we are seeing here. And they took it up. And sometime weeks later, we learned that the contractor returned back to field. So we also see cases in Niger State where people are a primary healthcare center, where we had the same kind of scenario where we just, gathered people, spoke to them, talked with them, ate with them and left. And months later, we were just seeing, troops of vehicles coming to the place, supplying the hospital equipment. So eventually the idea is that we don't use this, you use it, but you have to also take the actions, to be able to, bring about the kind of change you want to see. And whatever we need to do to be able to support you, to amplify your voice, to whomever that needs to hear it, we will do it. We've also seen incidences where, communities use their letter-headed paper, to write letters to their rep members here in Abuja to say, this is the constituency project we have here is not working. You have to, intervene and remedy the situation. And we are seeing them because they know them, the communities know their rep members. They voted them in. So they have more access to them than us. But I also think that one of the things I just want to chip in is the new, trends of challenges we are beginning to notice, because some of the issues that we had, just in addition to what Nnenna has said already, is that over time we've been asking, why are people not really caring? Even though, they know that there are decay in the society, they don't seem to care. Even at that level, they seem like disconnected. It doesn't affect us. It's because maybe we've not started connecting, this social issues to how it directly affects their own welfare. So when you know that this road here, is bad because you don't even care about it. Your children, your wives, your husband, your family cannot access adequate healthcare because you didn't take the right action. And then you're seeing the connection of your inability to participate and how it directly affects your life. I think that was one of the triggers, that started making people to, we need to change in their attitude and their behaviors around government, issues. And not also eluding the fact that one of the, issues that we've started noticing is that people tend to feel like if they voice out, if they talk, they will be stigmatized. Okay. And I think that's one of the issues we have to maybe address, as a country, because when we start seeing that, public officials, that we are servants of the people, and that when we work more collaboratively, we can actually achieve, because I believe that every government wants to talk or wants to be seen doing the right thing. And we as citizens are there to support you to achieve that aim, which is what you have for us as a people. And we can, do this in different ways. We can query you. We can call you out when we think you're not doing the right thing. But, you being able to accept this criticism without, witch hunting anyone, So because I'm saying this because these are some of the things that we're beginning to see where people, even the monitors that go on field, they report back to say when we go to those places, we are not armed. We just have data just to, compare what we have in the paper, which was the money that was released for the project, to what we are seeing on the field. Okay. And you see, talks, and even the political, politicians, querying them, threatening their lives because they are doing this. So I think it's really a fundamental, issue that we have to address as a country. Being able to understand this and understand, unless if we don't have the, the welfare of the people in mind, because otherwise, I won't see why, people will want to threaten someone because they're just verifying how the, project they intended to do were done.
Indeed.
So, yeah.
Well, we've had a very, very extensive and very enlightening discussion, which has been focused on partnering with local actors. And like PPDC has said, they have started in Abia and is going to extend to so many other communities. Hopefully, we'll begin to see citizen participation, asking the right question, ensuring, that, the contract implementation is taken to the highest height and not some shabby jobs that we get to see happen because there isn't anybody there to supervise and no checks and balances are provided, especially by the community members who are stakeholders in all of this. Very quickly, like in a span of 20 seconds, what would be your final word, Nnenna, and then to you, Ifeoma, very, very quickly because we've run out of time.
Okay, I would say that it's important for us to actively participate. Participation in governance is very key. And to be honest, the government is not going to ask you to participate. We have to take this up and actually build the nation we want to see. We have to be the change we want to see. So it's important for us to engage, participate, ask questions, familiarize yourself with your rights and utilize those things to make Nigeria what you want.
It is very important. Very quickly, Ifeoma, final words in just a very short time.
Just to say that, we don't have another country. We just celebrated the 60th independence yesterday, and emotions are high everywhere. But one of the key questions is, while emotions are high, we need to ask ourselves questions on how have I contributed to the state Nigeria is in? What have I done right? What have I not done right? As a citizen, as a public office holder, as a policy maker, as a president, as a person, what have I done to contribute to whatever? And being able to ask those, honest questions to ourselves will let us know if we are going to keep on the, on the path we are going, or if we are going to, amend, relearn, and learn again. So it's a learning call for all of us. Let's all bear in mind that we don't have any other country than Nigeria. I mean, some people have dual citizenship, but I don't. So for now, we just,
you're double Nigerian, don't worry.
Doing this.
All right, thank you so much. I've been talking with Ifeoma Onyebuchi, Program Director at the PPDC, and Nnenna Eze, who is the Communication Officer at PPDC. And we have been focused on reaching rural communities with data, focused on the launch of Abia and Anambra open contracting. We hope we'll get to hear about other communities as you extend the good works that you are doing there at the Public-Private Development Center. Thank you so much once again, Ifeoma and Nnenna. Do enjoy the rest of your morning.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.